right, so good to be back in Sydney testing conference. As Cam mentioned, it's an amazing fact. I didn't know myself. I thought I missed one of the editions, but good to know and hear that I've been here every single time. And thanks for all your support. And that's one of the reasons why Cam has picked my application. So it's because of all your wonderful feedback. So please keep that coming, and hopefully I can keep up to that expectations today on a very well-known topic of this age, right? Which is nothing but the Agentic AI and the rise of AI agents, right? It's like the rise of apes, something. I recently saw the movie, and then I thought, okay, let's put that as a title. But there is a reason towards it. I'll talk to it as we move along. There's people coming in, that's great. So let's get started. I think before getting into all the nitty-gritties, technicalities, let's step back and think about, what is AI? You've been hearing news about, AI slashing jobs, and some people take it positively, it's augmenting efforts and all of that. While keeping all that noise aside, we are here to learn about what is Agentic AI and what are more AI agents, what the differences are. And, I'm going to be going a little deeper and zooming out, and then going a little deeper and then going out. Okay, I want all of you to be tuned in. I know it's post-lunch, so if in case I go very theoretical, boring, I'll just ask you to stand up and sit down. So let's do some exercise. All right, so it's about humans leveraging AI to unlock new potentials, and then more so in specifically in test automation. AI isn't just a tool, it's about a partner which helps us delivering innovations. Quick show of hands. How many of you have heard about AI? Great. For those of you, okay, let's move to who attended my talk last time? Okay. I'm using the same slide theme. That's one of the facts. And the other thing is I'm asking the same questions. So last time when I asked same question, probably 20% of the room, but glad to see now it's more than 80%. Now, let's check another question. How many of you used AI? In some form, it could be Copilot to begin with ChatGPT. Okay, great. Okay, it's a good view, right? It's a good setup. I always used to see from here, and it's good to have that. Now, I think if you look at fundamentally what we are doing day in, day out, even it's not just about testing, right? It's about developing applications, about using it. There's been a fundamental shift in terms of how we are using applications and as well as testing it, right? So it's a complete software paradigm shift from traditional automation to ML, AI-based applications. If you look at the fundamental difference, right? So the computer can perform the task that's been asked to do, and that's what is all about traditional. And when we talk about the other side, it's all about your using application, your testing application that it has learned to do from what you have been doing. Amazing, right? And in the same way in traditional, it is being programmed in a way that it works based on what you want to do. It has its own predefined rules and logic. So input out, input in, input out. That's it, right? And whereas in the machine learning side, it doesn't just follow instructions. If you don't know, it learns from what you're doing. That's the magic about the other side of the wall, and what it means to testing, right? So we're actually moving away from testing deterministic output to non-deterministic output, which is basically right or wrong versus testing into more probabilistic, where we test for accuracy, consistency, biases, and all that aspects comes into picture. So that's where we are talking about. I know it's very high level, but that's why we are here to learn, go deep dive. And before that, let's do a testing reality check, right? Where we are right now. So if you look at the current state of testing in AI, there's two different extremes. There has been traditional automation and there is AI assisted testing. So if you look in traditional AI automation, let's take early 2000s, the likes of QDP and Selenium, all these tools came up. We used to write code, asked to click on buttons. It used to do it. But what happens if something changed? It fails. And who fixed it? It was us, every time, right? And now what's the shift now, which is AI assisted testing? There were tools in the market, products like the ones that you see here who supports the community. They promised us, they will help us self-heal your tests. If something goes wrong on the UI visually, they will pinpoint it and they will, let us know if something goes wrong on the UI experience and all this. And honestly, they did, which is great, right? But here is some of the uncomfortable truth, right? So there is about 85% of our efforts fundamentally go into maintenance and efforts and maintaining it. So in traditional automation, something goes wrong, we are fixing it. Even in AI-assisted things, it says it fails, but again, we have to put in the efforts to go and fix it, and fundamentally, it's us spending the whole time. So that's the huge reality gap. Now, where are we heading? Good question. That's what we want to find out, right? So the vision. So the vision for agentic AI testing. So imagine you discover a new flow, something that you might have not thought about, a system that can adapt to your changes, or something that it can identify risks on the fly, suggest new test cases again that you might have not thought of. All this is magical, right? Let me go back, take pictures. Sounds magical, right? But it's not a myth or it's not a magic, right? It's a real science behind it, and that's agentic AI, and we're gonna deep dive into it today. Let's talk about AI. So if you look at my title again, there was AI agents and agentic AI. I'm not gonna ask you who knows the difference, but again, I'm gonna make it very simple. So AI agent is nothing but they are specialized AI systems that can independently operate on things that they have been designed to do, right? So you give them roles and responsibilities, and that AI agent will do. In this, you could imagine an AI agent could be a QA tester, it could be a developer, it could be a business analyst, any persona that you can put in, right? And the question that you might ask is, fundamentally, you're shifting from, can you do this task, to saying, you handle this domain, I've given you everything that you wanted. Now, in the flip side, when you talk about agentic AI, it's all about learning from its initiatives, collaborating with other systems around it, and it's moving from asking questions like, what should I do, to here's what I want to achieve. That's the goal, right? Now, to break it a little bit down, AI agents and agentic AI, right? Let's go one by one. If you look at AI agents, it starts by perceiving the environment, just like how we do when we read an email, look at what's the content, and then it moves into reasoning, analyzing the input, understanding the context, whether it was a response to an email, whether it's a new email, and it actually learns, you can send an email, you can ask the agent to send an email, and then it learns, more important, right? Capturing the outcomes, the feedback, and that's why most of the AI systems that you interact with, even ChatGPT, right? It has a thumbs up button because it learns from it. The moment you do thumbs up, thumbs down, it's not reading your data. I'm not saying that, but it's learning, am I doing the right job or not, right? Whereas in the agentic AI, now we are talking about something that's more sophisticated from AI agents, right? So agentic means more of collaborations. You coordinate, you adapt, and more so specifically, you achieve a goal. And that's what agentic AI is all about. Is that clear? Is that still vague? Quick show of hands if it's clear. Okay, phew. Let me make it even more simple. Agentic AI is like a concept of an autonomous vehicle, and think like AI agent is more like a Tesla in a self-driving mode. I'm in no way advertising Tesla, but just giving an example. It could be BYD, it could be any other matter. Now is it clear? I should be saying more hands-on. Thank you. So now we've got the difference between AI agents and agentic AI. Let's go into, is this new? The answer is no. Because the AI has been there since beginning, since Turing mission, right? So if you know about Turing, something that can all be solved, you should learn about what Turing problems are all about. And then we had machine learning, neural networks, and all of this, right? So agentic AI is not new. That's what I'm going to say. Probably the way that we work, probably the way that you can achieve agentic has changed, make things a lot easier, and that's why it's a lot easier for you as well. So just to give you process automation, you saw that you have a workflow, you have a data, you automate, it gives you that result. In supervised AI ML learning, you train a model that could predict and classify things like last time in my talk, if you attended, I've told you how LLMs AI is solving a real world case of solving breast cancer. How many of you remember that from last time? A couple of you, that's good. So that's where the supervised AI ML is coming from. And reinforcement learning, like Amazon recommendations. So when you search for something in Amazon, something related pops up, and how does it work? That's all based on recommended systems, reinforcement learning, and all this is fundamentally all together falling in the world of AI. Now talking about Gen AI, yeah, it's there. Natural language NLP has been there forever. Computer vision been there forever. But the way how we work and the way how we work now has completely changed things, and that's why it's even more popular now. Because when something is easier to get, the more adoption follows, right? So yeah, you can use any L/S means large or small language models, and then you have multimodal artifacts, and then you talk about agentic AI, right? So that's where, if you see, it starts from goal. So that's the fundamental difference, right? So you start from a goal, you plan, act on it, and then reflect, and the loop goes on. So don't worry, we'll go even more deeper. So now this is where I told you about, let's go deeper. Now, what's taxonomy of agentic AI, right? So we have seen how agentic AI has evolved from all the paradigms that we saw. Now, if you ask me a question, thanks Manoj for all that, it's good theory, but what exactly makes an agentic system, right? Oops. So to understand that, we need to unpack agentic AI, and I'm going to show you this, right? So let's spend a good amount of time on this. So if you hear anything agentic AI, this is all it involves around, right? So you need to have, I think the core concepts, we're talking about what we want to achieve, whether it's all about autonomy, proactiveness, persistence, and that is what really giving your agents the power, right? Or the intelligence, that's what we're going to do. And then talk about agent types. There could be multiple type of agents. As I mentioned, in the earlier, I mentioned about user persona based, right? But that's not it, right? The agent could be anything. It could be persona based agents. It could be a more responsibility driven agent, let's put it that way. That's why you have reactive agents. Something happens, then you need to go and rescue. Deliberative agents, a learning agent. If something changes over the period of a time, then you should learn from those changes and then help me solve the problem. And then hybrid agents, which could do multiple other things, right? And then coordination models. It could be single agent, it could be multi-agent. You could have seen, at least in blocks, what's about multi-agents and chain of thought, prompt engineering, flow engineering, context. So it's lots of things, right? I'm not going to confuse you with all of that, but let's put things to simple. You need to understand what the core concept that powers agentic AI, and there are some responsibility-based agent types, and then if you come to architecture, we'll deep diver. So that's where the planners, execution, how the memory works, and all of that stuff comes into picture. And then, of course, where does it entail to, right? So it could be in a call center automation, it could be in test automation, it could be any other domain that you can think of. Is that easy, tough? Okay, I can see some nods. Don't worry. As I mentioned, we're going to deep dive, zoom out so you can understand a bit. Now let's talk about, this is all great. Now tell me how agentic AI works. That's going to be important and very much to understand, right? So think of it as a system, any complex user task that you're giving, right? So when I mean agentic, you can think about ChatGPT or anything that you're going to do. How many of you have used the likes of Cursor, Windsurf, and all these tools? Quick show of hands. A couple of you. Great. So those of you who have used, you can easily more relate to, saying because you interact with an agent. For those of you who have not, don't worry. We're going to completely learn about it. So whenever you're asking something, which is AI, it breaks down complex user tasks into manageable subtasks. And that is done by chain of thought, which is a pattern in prompt engineering. And prompt engineering, I'm sure you would have heard about it. I don't want to go to the basics. So, and then it processes sequentially based on logical dependencies, and then it helps us solve the problem step by step, right? So chain of thought serves as a primary decomposition framework. That's the fundamental towards how an agentic AI works. So anything that you hear about agentic AI, think of it as it all entails to a chain of thought, which is again a part of prompt engineering. and sequencing processing enabled step-by-step problem. So now what is this chain of thought, right? As I mentioned, it's a part of a prompt engineering, but you could see the difference, right? So even in prompt engineering, there are techniques like zero shot, multi-step shot, and a lot of these things. Now, standard prompting versus chain of thought prompting, you could see the difference for yourself, right? So when you ask something very bluntly, hey, I need to be this done, and LLM being LLM, as I mentioned last time, it tries to impress you, it will give you with loads of data, mostly 90% that you don't need and 10% which you need. I'm sure most of you would have faced this, and that's because you are zero prompting. You're not giving much data. And that's where chain of thought prompting would really help you. As you can see the answer, right, on the model input on the right-hand side, that gives you a more meaningful data. And that's what chain of thought is. I just want to give you a quick overview. Now I understood how Agentic AI tries to, make the complex task into chunks and use chain of thought. Now, what happens during the journey? Of course, the memory management, right? So that is very, very important. So long-term memory is definitely needed because that's where the vector databases are needed. ChromaDB, all these DBs that you would have heard about comes into picture, which sort of stores agent knowledge and the experience, right? Because you may be, if you are interacting with an enterprise agentic framework, it may be having multiple agents. So how does it really work? And that's what I'm covering now. Because when there are multiple agents, you need to have some sort of long-term memory, which usually in the case is ChromaDB sort of styles, which is VectorDB. And then in context short-term memory will definitely be there because you're going after step by step in different agents, so that's what happens. And then context sharing happens, and so forth and so on, right? Now, what happens is it plans well, execute, reflect, and refine. So this is all happening. So if you see from the beginning of the slides, right, there's a pattern that you could see, right? We're talking about goals, we're talking about responsibilities, we are talking about conditions that we are asking agents to perform in a certain way, right? But these LLMs are definitely powering applications, right, from chatbot to different applications that you can think of, even in enterprises, right? That's how it goes. But question to ask is, smart agents are great, but what if they have no idea what you wanted to know, right? That's where retrieval augmented generation comes into picture. How many of you have heard about RAG before? Good. For those of you not, don't worry. I'm sure you've heard about large language model, which is the likes of Gemini, OpenAI, and all of it. So if you go and ask a question on ChatGPT, give me a test case for login scenario, it'll give you. That is generic because it's been trained on 1390 billion parameters and it has all the knowledge that it can pull the sources from and give you a very generic test cases. Now, that's where knowledge enhanced LLM comes into picture, where imagine those 90 billion parameters powered large language module along with your own company data. It could be any static data, multimodal data, it could be your Teams recording, it could be your Zoom recording, all of those, right? All of those plus the LLM language, large language models data, both together, it will give you a more meaningful output that you're expecting, right? So that's what we call as retrieval augmented generation. And it'll be even more powerful when you combine these both, right? So that's where we're talking about RAG versus Agentic AI. So that's where we're talking about, RAG is all about static retrieval and have a decision making, which means you send a data, you wait for a data, and you can only act after it finishes. But whereas in the agentic, you can autonomously retrieve and you can tell what to do, you can learn from what it happens. And that's why I said like it's a single step queries, but here it's multi-step, you can have multiple agents, all of this can happen. In RAG, you can either use only one LLM, but in agentic, that's where it's good about it. For those of you who already worked in AI, you must have known about. So OpenAI's GPT, in my experience, works well for static text-based works for processing. Like if you give a 100-page PDF, it will smartly parse and give the data that you want. But whereas for something that you have to write a code for, like source code or automation script or anything for, in my experience, I've felt Claude Sonnet, Opus 3.7 to be very much helpful. So if you want to mix and match these LLMs in your flow, that's where you go with agentic RAG, right? So, and again, in RAG, there's no human in the loop. But whereas in agentic RAG, you could have human in the loop as much as possible, right? Now let's talk about agentic AI workflow, right? So the moment we hear about agentic AI, people think of it as there's some robot magically doing something. And technically, that's what you see when you do in ChatGPT or use Cursor, likes of tools, right? Because you prompt something and it gives you something and you're amazed by the results. But how does it happen, right? When, hear me out, this is something that most people get wrong. And I'm taking this opportunity to share with you the things that I've learned. When we mean about agentic AI, it's not about always autonomous, right? You can have a fully controlled agentic system to a fully autonomous agentic system. That's the extreme that it can go through. So in a fully controlled environment, you can have almost a human in the loop in every agentic step, versus a fully autonomous step, you can have various different things coming in from, for example, fully controlled is prompt chaining. You can prompt each thing that you want to do, and then agentic flow. You can have a semi-autonomous agent, for example, do X, Y, Z task, and then I will have an agent which will review and then do X, Y, Z tasks, and so forth you can go. And then you can have a fully autonomous agents as well. This is great. Now, let's ask questions like, where are we now? So we did manual testing, we did test automation, we did some AI assisted testing, we are still doing it, and now we are agentic AI testing, right? So that's where this goes. Now, what does agentic AI means for testing in quality, right? So this is something that I've spoken to someone like, Manoj, AI is coming, I don't know what to do. Would we be still writing test cases? Would we be writing manual automation test cases? Well, we will be. It's quite controversial, right? Because this is me speaking for myself as my personal views, not the company that I represent for, because that's where you can think of a tester who could be writing tests, will be defining goals, because we spoke about agentic means a goal-driven, and testers who are maintaining scripts will be guiding agents, who did reactive debugging will be doing a proactive risk management, who did isolated testing in different environments will be doing a collaborative intelligence with agents. And that's the shift that I see going forward will happen from traditional testing versus agentic AI testing. Now, we spoke enough about agentic and AI. So now what it could do, right? It could do intelligent test generation. It can creates tests from requirement. I'm sure most of you would have seen this or tried doing this at least as an experimentation. It learns from your application changes as long as it's tightly integrated with your application, and also does autonomous healing. Something changed in the DOM and automatically it not fails. It learns from it and changes. And of course, it does a risk-based prioritization. That's where the risk-based testing comes into picture. And trust me, agent does an amazing job when it comes to risk-based testing, and we could learn from it. And also, once it does a task, it doesn't finish there. It learns every time. That's the beauty about it. Just like humans, I've done this automation script. I've tested this feature. What are we learning? What did we learn? That's exactly what agentic AI is doing as well. And that's what it powers. The more you use, the more it gets powers, right? Now, this is all great. Now, what powers this agentic AI, right? So just to quickly summarize, so far we have seen about AI agents and agentic. We unpacked on what are the different tools we may be needing, and what all the things that we could help us do. Now, consider all these agents together, right? Now, in a typical agentic system, how does someone define an agentic? Let's put it this way, right? So that's how this comes in. So there will be an orchestrator agent usually. So this is more like, if I want to create agentic, how should I go about it, Manoj, right? If that's your question, this is the pattern that usually any agentic system follows, and this is how you could learn from it as well. So usually it has an orchestrator agent that acts as a strategic lead, coordinating tasks, getting the information, and of course you will have a learning agent which continuously improves from testing and also from the contextual data that you give. And the most important part is the specialized agents, which is something the agent that you will do. For example, you can build an agent that can test for accessibility, test for performance, test for chaos, all these things, right? You can have different roles and responsibilities to different agents. And then, of course, everything comes together as a system based on a communication layer. So that's what typically it happens. So is that Getting somewhere? Are you able to? I can see some nods. It'll be good to see some quick show of hands. Hopefully, post-lunch trauma didn't hit you. Yes? I still didn't see. Okay, thank you. Satisfied with that. Now, is that all? No. That's where things real. Let's build one together, right? I'm going to live code and straight away show you how to do an agent. It's going to be amazing, right? So stay with me. But before that, let's pick a scenario. So where do you think Agentic AI can help us in testing and automation? I've given you some clues in different slides, but let me hear out. Anyone? Sorry? Try test cases? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay, dealing with log files. We don't want to read through the entire log. Great. Yes? Self-healing, yes. Manage? Analyze fake failures, yes, yes. Great. Thank you for participating. These are the different things that you could typically write. I can already see that you're already in the game. Now that you know the use case, with all that I went through in different slides, you can actually see how you can build this together. Now I'm going to pick something, user story to BDD gherkin format. Well, I have my own opinionated views on BDD and Cucumber. I'm not going to say that now. I'll just leave it to each of your own opinions. But this is what mostly, I work for Cognizant, and of course I've interfaced with different clients, and this is something that I see many people are trying to do. Some people get success, some people not. And also worldwide, a lot of people in the QA community, I go to different conferences, I hear about how people use AI. So, let's see how do you convert user story into a BDD gherkin format, right? Of course, you can do this in ChatGPT, it will give you, but again, why are you here? Because you want to understand how that happens in the behind the scenes, right? Because that's why the learning improves. So what happens if you want to do that in your environment? Because of course you can't have a ChatGPT to read your company data or send your data there. So that's why you build your agentic system within your firewall, within your guardrails and all of that. Now, from user story to BDD, I have 4 agents that I have in mind. Let me see how attentive you all have been. I like this part. So you saw about the orchestrate agents and all the different agents, right? So put that framework, and with all that you've learned, now tell me, to convert user story to BDD, what are the 4 different agents that we could have? Anyone? Sorry? Communication. That was easy because we picked from the last one. Okay. Sorry? Specialist agent. Okay. Could you be even more specific? What sort of specialized agent we would need for this use case, which is converting from user story to BDD? I'm hearing something. Could you be please louder? Okay. Yeah. BDD specialist. Who is BDD specialist here? I'm sure no one want to raise their hands. I was right. Anyone else want to give it a try? So all I'm trying to do is convert my Jira-based user stories or any test management for that matter into a BDD gherkin format that I can then use to create automation scripts or whatsoever. Now, what sort of agents I would need here? Business analyst. Okay, let me be specific. Let's not put a scenario-based agents here. Let's be specific on specialized agents. So in that way, what a BA will do? Write a user story. Great. So we need a user story analyzer because we are feeding the agentic system into a human written or probably whoever written. It could be another other AI agent. So the agent responsible for analyzing the stories. Now you should be understanding where we are going. So what could be the next one? Okay. So the next one that I want is a test scenario generator, because often most of you would have heard, because is there any product owners BAs here? Thank you. Now I can see. We know how they write test user stories. It's usually, yes, I know the pain, right? Been there, done that. It's usually high level, vague. We have to put all the neural networks in mind and figure out. Thank God, thanks to AI, so that's where it helps. So we need a test scenario generator that understands from all these high-level things with all the billion parameters being trained on, of course, within your network. The agent that can scenario test scenarios, and then BDD generator, someone mentioned, that's great. So here's where the translation happens from, okay, we analyze user stories, we generate scenarios, and then combining this together, we create a BDD, because you can't create BDD without various specific scenarios. That's where you're asking an AI to be brilliant there. And then you want a review agent as well. So it could, this is where you can review, you can ask an agent to be, hey, be a QA for yourself and then do a fundamental analysis. In Agile Manifesto, there is something called Invest. Most of you have heard about it. So Invest framework, which is independent, negotiable, T stands for testable, and whatever you can fill it. So that's where the Invest framework comes in, where you can use that Invest framework to test against a user story and give what it happens. How much time I have? 10 minutes. Okay, cool. Thanks. Now, this is great. We are getting there. Now, what all I need to get this building? Great, good question. So here's a toolkit that we need. So you can go back to your laptops today. We can try this and trust me, it'll work. So the tools that you will need to build something like this, right? Of course, we are just scratching a surface, and there could be more scenarios, more agents that you could build. But let's go one by one, right? So from a development environment, you need something like Python, JavaScript. You need a VS Code. Jupyter notebooks are good. And of course, from prompt engineering, you need to know a little bit about how to write a better prompt. Rather asking what is 1 plus 2, you can actually ask more detailed manner. I'm trying to know the answer for 1 plus 2 because I'm doing this. Then it'll give you a more specific answer that you want. Of course, you want to have a data set as well, because what are you going to give to the system that will help you test this. And then what framework would I want? Like, for example, if you ask me for doing test automation, there are frameworks like Selenium, Playwright, and Cypress. And now if you ask me, hey, Manoj, is there a framework like that to build Agentic? Yes, there are. There is something called LangGraph, there is something called LangChain, and then there are commercial COTS products like Crew AI, N8N, and all these aspects comes into picture as well. If that you can you can use like plug and play. And then we spoke about agentic memory management. So in order to need, you saw 4 agents, right? So of course you need your passing data between different agents. So where do you state this data? Where does the memory happens? And that's where this. And then LLM provider, you need to choose an LLM. It could be OpenAI, GPT, or Claude, or different things for that matter. And the core piece of it, you need to understand what you want to do. You can ask the BDD translator agent to be having a Gherkin parser, so you can convert the free text scenarios into a BDD Gherkin format, because writing Gherkin is usually a painful task to me, because you can't go wrong in grammaticals there, and personally I'm very weak in grammar, I can admit that. So if you're writing something else instead of an and statement, it does something else, so there's a lot of nuances involved. So personally I would like something like this to take care of it. And of course you need to know what the end output is, whether it could be Selenium, Playwright, different tools. All right, it's showtime. Let's do it. Hopefully you could see my screen. Yep. All right, so I have let me run my Jupyter lab. So it's just an installable in Windows and Mac. You could install, and then it'll open up something like this. This is more like all the complex environment in one single window. Let's put that way. So this notebook will help you do step by step. So first things first, you need to tell what I need to install. This is more like from Java world. You put your member dependencies. If you're in JavaScript world, it's more like your package.json file. And in Python world, it's pretty straightforward. You do pip install and all of that. Oops, my secret key is there. Let me quickly scroll up. Don't see it. Okay. So now, how do we start? So LangGraph. So I define and I initialize an LLM. I'm going to use Claude 3 Opus. Is the font okay? I know. These cues help me understand if you're awake, so you are. Thank you. So I can't explain to you the complete LangGraph LangChain. That'll be an overkill. But if you want to learn more about this, please feel free to ping me. Happy to help you in the journey. So in LangGraph, there are 2-3 things, right? So there is nodes. It could be a function that you want to do, which could be the different agents, and edges, which tells you which node that I speak to next. Sorts of take that intelligent decisions, and then there are conditional and all of that. And all this is powered by an agent state. So as you see, I'm initializing it, and I'm having a user story, analysis, scenario generator, and then review comments, right? And then as you see, I'm writing a small function, right? So this could be as simple as, which is easy, print statement. Are you all following me? Yep. Great. So this 10 lines of code is powering up one agent. Let's put that simple. And again, this is the simplest way that I could think of in my experience fiddling with Agentic AI for past couple of years, trying to make it easy for you, but in a real life scenario, it will be even more sophisticated. So very easy print statement, just to make you feel nice. And then having a state, which I call it as user story. And then prompt engineering, we spoke about it earlier. So everything will have prompts. So here is where we are assigning the roles and responsibilities, saying, hey, you are an expert user story analyzer, use Agile manifesto, or be a QA for yourself, criticize. Now your task is to break down the user story, blah, blah, blah. I'm giving that. And then chain is equal to prompt pipe LLM. That's where I'm sending the data to LLM. And then whatever response it comes back, we save it. And so does the scenario generator. So does the BDD translator, as you can see, right? I'll just hold on the screen for a moment. So you can see, convert these scenarios into Gherkin syntax using given, when, then, ensure each step is clear and actionable, and all of that, and then there's a review. And putting all this together, as I mentioned, node is something that it could be as simple as a Python function, which is powering the actual agent. And then edge is something that which bridges that gap and tells which node to do. And I'm setting a entry. So the entry point is the first agent that it should start is to analyze a user story, right? So let's get this started, right? So here is my actual statement. So user story, this is as a user, I'm feeding in a user story. That's my sample user story. As a registered user, I want to be able to reset my password so that I can regain access to my account if I forget password, straightforward. And then I just invoke and then finish it, right? So let's do this one by one. I've already, as you saw, the secret keys were there. I just need to run it up. Great things, didn't work, it failed. So we need to run from the beginning. LangChain, second agent, third agent, fourth agent, in the scenario, and then finally running what we want to do. So now you can actually see the user story analyzer has started. So now it will actually understand whatever I've given, that is the as a registered user, blah, blah, blah. So now the expectation is that user story analyzer will start and then go into test scenario generator and then translate into BDD and then come back. So there you go. So user story analyzer has given a breakdown. It says user role is registered and the desired action is reset password. The expected outcome is this, and it's giving you explicit acceptance criteria and as well as some implicit acceptance criteria, which is great, isn't it? Because usually, be honest to yourself. If you forgot password, we technically do one happy path and yeah, it's fucking. But that's not it. There's a lot more things associated with it. So that's where AI will help you to give you those more scenarios. And it's giving me even more scenarios, like 1 scenario, 2, 3, and then go on. You can actually say, I want at least 10 scenarios. It'll go back and give you that scenarios as well. Now actually, you can actually see it says BDD translator, it already started. There you go, it's giving you a successful password scenario 1, 2, all of this stuff. Now if I go back and say, convert the given scenarios into Gherkin using given when then format, and also add examples as a test data, because obviously we need more. This is something that we used to do. So now I just need to run. Then again, it will start from the first. It goes to user story analyzer. So now I don't know how much time it's going to take. We'll quickly wait until we see a BDD with the examples. I can see it's like 2 seconds. Yeah, 2 minutes. In the meanwhile, to take this further, I have written a line graph based framework. Okay, I think it's yeah. So I've done this to my weekend, so that's how we have user story input. You can do all of this. Let me go back and check result scenarios. There you go. So it gave you with examples and all of it. And I don't have time to show my framework that I have, but obviously happy to walk you through. Now, quickly on this. Reference architecture, pick a use case, choose an LLM you want. Of course, all of this will have prompt engineering RAG. You need to tune a model, have your own AI guardrails and evaluate, have sort of an LLM ops to verify, validate, and do all of that stuff. Challenges, most often not spoke about. Explainability is very, very important. Understanding agent decisions is very, very crucial. You need to be able to have a traceability mapping on why the agent gave you the scenario, why it didn't give that. So you need to have that sort of traceability. And of course, it's just the top of the iceberg. Bottom of the iceberg, there are a lot of things, right? So that's where ethics comes into picture, skills, integrations with different parties, because usually we work with legacy systems. It's very hard to integrate with AI, so we need to take care of that. Thanks to MCP these days, it's there. And then control. It's very essential, because if you're not controlling, then it's gone. It's just like small kid. You need to do. Finally, thanks for being with me here. We're not just accelerating automation. We are architecting intelligence into the heart of quality. Now again, who are you? That's me. I work at Cognizant as a practice lead, take care of Center of Excellence for working in Gen AI stuff. And if this is interesting, Cognizant is already working with a few of you already. So if this is interest to you, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to implement this for you. And I'm already doing it in one of the top banks, which is turning out to be great. As Cam mentioned, I'm part of the Selenium team. I've contributed to Protractor as well. So a lot of those frameworks, starting from Kubernetes to observability. These are the things that I fiddle with. And if you love bikes, if you love basketball, happy to talk through, and F1 as well. Thank you so much for being with me here, and hopefully you got a thing out of it. Thank you. That's my LinkedIn. Just connect with me as long as you want. Oh, this is a gift card. A question?
Good.
All right, so question. Okay, honestly, I didn't think about it. All right, the rule is going to be show of hands. And whoever Cam sees first, they will answer. And if it's right, you get it. So the question is, we spoke about line graph, if you remember, and the different components of it. So which of those components will help tell you which agent to go and talk to?
Yep.
Sorry? Okay, anyone else?
Quiet. Yep.
Okay, anyone else? Right answer, edges. So as I said, nodes is a Python function. It is the actual agent. What's powering which agent to talk through in the workflow is all edges. Thanks. First row, right? Thank you. That's it.